Good afternoon. A warm welcome to this webinar presented by Telecom Review Asia. I'm your moderator, Abhishek, Principal and Head of TMT at Area Southeast Asia. Our focus today is Indonesia's dynamic telecom landscape, spotlighting on the merger between Indosat Ooredoo and CK Hutchison to give us Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison, a telecom powerhouse and Indonesia's second largest operator with over 100 million subscribers and counting. By all measures, one of the most successful mergers in the industry of this scale across the globe. We are privileged to have two distinguished speakers with us today, Vikram Sinha, CEO of IOH, and Sean Collins, Executive Chairman of CCS Insight, to discuss this compelling topic. Let us now kick off this webinar with a brief address by Vikram. Vikram, please.
Thanks, Abhishek, and good morning, good afternoon to everyone joining from whichever part of the world. My name is Vikram. I'm the CEO for Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison. Just to set the context and for everyone, all our viewers, to have a bit of a background. Indosat Ooredoo, and especially Indosat, is a very strong brand in Indonesia. This is a 56-year-old brand which connected first time Indonesia to the world. Indosat Ooredoo became Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison on 4th January 2022. We started this journey with a clear message that this merger of two brand, two asset is very good. First, for Indonesia as a country, very good for all our customer and for employee. And when we do all those things, it will serve our shareholder also. 20 months has passed. Happy to share with all of you, when we started our journey, market cap of Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison was $2.3 billion US. Today, it is 5.1 or 5.2 billion US. More important, I think the first key thing I want to highlight, for you to serve the country, first you have to be sustainable. You have to make sure that you do things which are more mid-term, long-term, and you do it in a sustainable manner. Second, when we said it is good for the country, we have a lot of indicator which shows how it is supporting the bigger mission of Digital Indonesia. We said it is good for the industry. Industry before merger was growing 1 or 2%. I think this year it is heading towards 5%. I think these are all indicators which are showing. Again, for customer, if you look at all the third-party report in terms of customer experience, all the parameters are improving. So this is where we are. We are not done. We have a lot of more work to be done. But I think we are in a journey towards creating something which, as part of Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison family, we are very proud of.
Thank you, Vikram, and congratulations. Moving on, we have 8 questions for the webinar today. First question to both you. We see Indonesia as the fastest growing digital economies in the region. What are the key opportunities and investment prospects in this market? Sean, maybe you can tell us the global view of what you hear from investors, and Vikram, what you've come across.
Well, thank you, Abhishek, and thank you, Vikram, for that introduction. I always find it interesting to talk about the Indonesian market. It's one of the more exciting markets in the world, I think. And I think that brings us on to the first of the things I think we need to think about where Indonesia is concerned, which is this is a business which is built on scale. In every market, in every place, scale sells. And so the bigger you are, the more power you have to be able to bring a tapestry of technologies to your organization and to your country, which will allow you to deliver above average returns on investment. Vikram alluded to that a few minutes ago. And I think Indonesia offers that as one of the largest markets in the world. I think, Vikram, with over 100 million customers now, that's a very exclusive club. There's not many of those around in the world, regardless of the country that you're talking about. And I think those two things mean that Indosat and the Indonesian market are extremely well placed to be able to take advantage of some of the technologies, some of the propositions, and some of the use cases that we're starting to see emerge as the new technology of 5G is relatively new still for us, starts to emerge into the marketplace. I think the second thing is that, without going on too much about COVID, I think it's in the past now, thank God. But COVID showed us just how important connectivity is to all of us in how we work, how we teach our children, how we stay healthy, how we connect with one another. And there's no question that we've seen in many countries around the world a re-energizing of the telecoms market, which is some markets have seemed to go ex-growth in order to deliver a better quality of that experience to the home particularly, but away from a more centralized type of environment. And those two things, I think, are meaning that mobility and connectivity has become much more attractive on an international basis. Scale remains a central piece of any proposition that you see globally. And I think Indonesia in particular, given the scale, the energy, and I think the delivery that's being able to be offered inside that marketplace and in the marketplace, I think offers extremely attractive opportunities, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Sean. Vikram, how do you see the key opportunities and investment prospects?
I think first, I completely agree to what Sean said. Telco is a scale business, and we have been seeing it and experiencing it. But let me take a step back. I think I've said this earlier. It's all about being in the right place at right time. Let me spend a minute talking about Indonesia as a country. Look, let me tell you something now. The gross merchandise value of the digital economy today is around 70 billion. And in next 2 years, it is heading towards 150 billion. And this is where the role of telco and telco with scale, who is sustainable, who can support country. Let's also look at in a global stage. I'm not talking 2045. By 2045, Indonesia will be among the top 4. But by 2030, it will be among the top 10. It's a 1 trillion economy. It will double. And all these things are getting fueled by rural Indonesia. So I invite investors, partners to come and see how we can use technology to solve real problem and serve people. If you do it with right intent, the upside opportunity in mid-term and long-term is significant. There are very few markets in the world which give such opportunity. Let me highlight one more data point on rural Indonesia. In next 4 years, there are 21 million new first-time internet users coming in. Just for people to understand the scale, I tell them that it is like Australia getting born in rural Indonesia. Where on earth you have such opportunity? So it's all about being in the right place and with right scale. Indosat has the scale. Indosat, Ooredoo, Hutchison, and so on. You are right. We are among the top 10 club in the world, which has more than 100 million customer. And then telco is a scale business. When I'm serving customer with $2.5 to $3 ARPU, I can only do it properly when you have the scale. So this is where it is now.
Thank you so much. Moving on to the next question, and this is to you, Vikram. Can you elaborate on ways that the merger has positively influenced Indonesia's digital landscape? You addressed about the GMV, but it'd be good to hear a little bit more details about that.
Yes, I think I will build on what I said on my context setting opening note. When we started this journey, what really drove us is our purpose. And our purpose was to empower every Indonesian. But let me put some numbers in terms of how this merger has helped Indonesia as a country and industry. One of the number is ARPU. If you look at ARPU growth post-merger, there has been an upside of around 8 to 15%. That has led to industry revenue growth. Industry for last 5 years before merger was hovering around 1 or 2%. Now the next 5 year CAGR looks like 5-6%, which is in line with the GDP growth, which is very healthy. At least the industry growth has to be minimum in line with the GDP or more than the GDP growth. And Abhishek and Sean, my learning has been as industry leader, it is our responsibility to grow the industry. We keep sometimes blaming about industry not growing. Who is industry? There are 2-3 of us,
Right.
and it is our responsibility to move the industry in the right direction, because the industry has a very important role to play. So these are some of the key one, and when you talk about accelerating the digital economy growth, I think Sean touched upon 5G and beyond, but there is a lot of juice on 4G itself. Our focus is rural network and infrastructure, how we can really provide the right connectivity, because we are in the connectivity business. We have to master it with great experience, and then we can, support on digital talent, tech startup ecosystem, SMEs. A lot of things can be done, and also on Industry 4.0. All those things will only happen once you have scale, and then you can attract partners. You can make sure that the right value propositions are put into place.
Thank you, Vikram. Sean, this one to you. What are the major challenges that the telco face when they merge? In the beginning, we touched upon, this particular merger is almost an anomaly in this market. We have seen larger attempts not being that successful. Happy to hear your thoughts from a global perspective.
Yeah, I think the other thing about this market, the market at the moment, is that if in the achievement or in the quest to get to scale, many operators and many shareholders are looking to bring businesses together to make just bigger businesses. And what we've seen around the world are some great success stories, but largely some troubled paths to success. Bringing together two very large brands in any market, anywhere in the world, is always going to be a challenging thing to do. And I think we split it up into two separate areas, internal and external. And we can talk about the external for a minute, but I think the internal one is far more important, because in being able to bring together two very large organizations who have been successful, who have delivered an organization and a network and a brand which is recognized and embraced by a people, whatever, in this case, Indonesia, means that they have their own ways of doing things, they have their own culture and their own elements of delivery and the way that they bring that together. If you're going to make a success where you move from 1% growth to 5% growth annualized, in any organization, anywhere, you have to do a lot of different things, And in the process of that, you have to bring together two sets of what could be very different cultures against a common aim, towards a common aim and a common goal, but it's about delivering that service beyond. So internally, I think, and certainly the work that we've done on this in the past, we know that a successful merger largely is based on the bringing together internally of both the organizations, of the cultures, and of the ways of doing things with customers, whether that's brand or whether that's connectivity paths or whether that's installation, to be able to make that one. You don't want blue and red or whatever the colors may be of the brands becoming the way that you define your organization internally, because that's very destructive. You also have, of course, the more straightforward things, nonetheless big things, about things like brand. Do you stay with two brands? Do you go for one brand? Are you able to deliver this through your existing distribution system, or do you start to change your distribution system? Do you rationalize your distribution system? Do you make it bigger? Do you rationalize your tariffs? Do you make your tariffs more aggressive? Do you make them less aggressive? All of that, actually, while it's very hard, is the easier of the two. If you haven't got a committed organization behind it, and I can give you examples, but it's not fair to do that on a public broadcast. But if you haven't got a committed organization behind it, it will always continue to trip up, and you will get large dissent inside those organizations, which absolutely will compromise what you can do in those marketplaces.
Thank you, Sean. We'll listen about that from Vikram. So, Vikram, IOH has successfully merged at an expedited timeline. Can you elaborate on the indicators and then what went behind it to ensure the success?
Look, I think let me tell you the question which you asked, Sean. What are the major challenges telco faces? When I got into this pre-merger, I had an analyst call with my shareholder. With more than 200 analysts from all over the world. Two things they were highlighting. They were asking how many customers you will lose. If you look at historically all the merger, all of them had lost anywhere between 5 to 25%. Yeah. Uh, so that was one challenge. And I don't blame them. That is what history says. Second, they were telling, okay, you will deliver synergy value, whether it is 300 or 400, but you will do it on the outer year. First 2 year, how will you will be burdened with the one-time integration cost. So I think this is what I was hearing. But for me, I took a step back. I said, what did we promise? We said this is good for our customer. And customer don't care. You merge, you don't merge. What they care is that their experience, whatever they are getting, they hold during the transition, and then eventually it improves. Then only it is good for customer. So I think this is the mindset which we work for, and to deliver that, my 80% time was on culture and people. Please understand, this is what sometimes the softer aspect gets ignored. People are so focused on delivering synergy value, doing things, and this is where it gets destroyed. So I've been asked on merger learnings in many forums with a lot of senior people. And one thing, if I have to highlight, and Sean also touched about it, it is your opportunity to set the culture. And culture is something, it can be sometimes, very vague, but, define that. What does it mean? What does it mean for your employee? I think the key message I was trying to say is it's the people who matter. So how do you take care of people in a very transparent and respectful manner, without any bias. And if you have to take hard decision also, do it with respect, full fairness and transparency. It is good for everyone. Believe you me, it is good for the person who gets impacted, for the organization and the existing people. So I think sometimes, when you look back, when I was trying to study most of the merger, I think this is where it goes wrong. They are too obsessed with synergy value. Yes, for sure. When you do these things on modeling and Excel sheet, it looks very good on synergy value. But for that to be successful, you have to get it right on people, culture, and take it as an opportunity to set the culture you want. People were asking me, you want to follow Doha culture or Hong Kong? I said, no, we have an opportunity to set Indonesia Indosat culture. How many times in life you get such opportunity?
Right,
So
right, right.
that has been my key learning.
Fantastic. Vikram, that segues nicely into the next question. If you could highlight, how you kind of came up with this Gotong Royong or Empowering Indonesia mission, and how IOH's digital transformation journey is aligning with that.
This Gotong Royong is very, very close to my heart. I learned it very early when I was traveling rural Indonesia. What does it mean? Basically, it is the whole philosophy of, in a village, everyone come together to support the cause. They don't ask what is there for me. But on a bigger platform, it is about collaborating. It is about collaborating for solving problems or opportunities, unlocking a opportunity. Yeah. And I saw it very deep in the Indonesia culture, and that really triggered me. If I give you a small example, in 2020 during COVID time, my help in the house was asking my wife, around $200, and we got worried. Is everything okay in their house in the village? She said, all good in my family, but I want to help my neighbor. So this is Gotong Royong. So with this philosophy, what we want to do at Indosat, we want to work with like-minded partner. We have a clear principle of making money with our partner, not from our partner. For that to happen, we want partner also to treat us in a fair manner and treat Indonesia also in terms of giving it back what it needs. and then unlocking all the opportunities which is here in the country, and with our scale, Son will be able to relate to it more. You need to have scale if you want to talk eye to eye with big partners,
You do.
So that is how
You do.
Berger is helping us unlock that.
Thank you, Vikram. That's very helpful. Sean, maybe the next question to you. Amid the growing digitalized landscape, how can telcos continue to boost connectivity and innovation across the country, particularly in the underserved areas?
Yeah, it's a great question actually, and one that we're looking at in a variety of regions of the world at the moment, because this digital divide, which is still existing in some countries of the world, something that we're racing to try and change. If you look at the UN SDG goals and others, there are not only technically the tapestry of technologies available, but also there's some financing available as well to make this happen. And I think, having been in this business a long time, I'm really quite excited about where we're going with the connectivity technologies right now across the world. In the old days, we talk about a new G, a 3G, a 4G, and even a 5G. But if you look at the connectivity options that someone like Vikram has now, they're so much more, I think, sophisticated in being able to deliver a very, very good broadband service and connectivity service to some of the more remote, and Indonesia has some very remote elements of its business. But all of those Indonesian people, even in the most remote areas, are just as deserving of a giga experience as anybody in the middle of Jakarta. And so it's the question for Vikram and for businesses like Vikram's to be able to deliver that, not just because they have a social responsibility to do that, we all acknowledge that, but also they have the ability to do it technically that where they're not losing money. And so what we're seeing at the moment is a really rich tapestry of technologies emerge, some out of 5G, as Vikram has already said, still a very rich 4G set of understandings. And we've got fiber in some parts of the world. Now, all of those things, you will choose some of those for various types of deployment and delivery. And all will have a part to play. The key to it is that perhaps beyond any time we've ever seen in human history before, we're going to be able to offer pretty much everybody some level of connectivity and broadband access pretty quickly at a reasonable cost in the next few years, in the next couple of years. And I think that when we talk about the growth of the market going from 1 to 5% in Indonesia and elsewhere, by the way, some of that is around the fact that we're seeing an innovation in networks which allows us to think differently about how networks are deployed. Then we can say to people it's available. Then they can say, okay, we understand how transformational telcos and the connectivity is for people who have never seen it before. If you can remember the first time you went onto broadband from dial-up, I'm old enough to remember that, I'm afraid, but then you'll understand just how revelatory it is, even in a developed environment. Imagine how it works in areas which have never had the opportunity to have it in the past. And so what we're seeing, I think, is when we talk about this attractive investment environment, is part of the energy, part of the instruments, part of the toolbox that companies like Indosat are able to now go to investors and say, give me 100 million, give me 200 million, give me 500 million, give me $1 billion to invest, is it's not just about rolling a network out. It's about rolling out a tapestry of networks which allow you to deliver an even better experience for some of those individuals and communities.
Thank you, Sean. Vikram, maybe you want to highlight how you're kind of planning on serving the underserved areas.
I think I want to build on what Sean said. I think we are too obsessed with technologies. What we should be obsessed with, what are the real problem we are solving and how we are serving and aligned to our bigger purpose. Technology is an enabler to do that. So let me give you a few examples. If you pivot from a technology obsessed mindset to a problem serving approach, then you use all the technology. Today I have everything. I agree with Sean, So our objective is to ensure we don't allow digital divide. And that is why I'm very focused in rural Indonesia. I need to give the same experience what I give people in Jakarta, while I need to keep improving in Jakarta. How can I ensure that there are still, people who are not even getting 4G network? How do we make sure we use all these technology to serve people? And we have to ensure, and this is where it links to our purpose. Our purpose is to empower every Indonesian. People ask me, what is your target on customer market share? I said, I have no target. My only purpose is to empower 275 million Indonesian. You can only
Right.
do that when you use technology as an enabler, whether it is 3G, 4G. 3G is now over. We have closed 3G. It is a good news.
Right.
4G has a lot of juice. That is what I'm trying to highlight, and this is where we are we are moving directionally, and we want to do it with the Gotong Royong principle. We can't do it alone. We want like-minded partner to come in. We want to get the unit economics right. We are very mindful that we are working in a $2.5 to $3 ARPU market, and but we have scale. So how do we balance these things and serve our? And I'm personally very focused. We had a MOU with ITU, and then we are very committed not only to serve and also digitally upskill them. We have to educate them also. The digital talent gap, has to happen on those areas parallelly.
Very clear. Thank you for that, Vikram. Next question, Vikram, again, if you could share some of IOH's future initiatives, both at expanding its presence and also on creating a meaningful social impact. You mentioned about your covering the large population and let's say 21 million new customers every year, or getting a whole Australia connected. If you can expand and give some more specifics about your future initiatives, maybe including your views on how you're looking at it holistically from a fiber/fixed perspective as well, that'll be very insightful, Vikram.
I think this is a good question. I get this question a lot. First, let me help you correct factually. 21 million new customer will be coming in next 4 to 5 years. So it's
Yeah.
a year game. And then this is where we need to invest in rural to connect them, and then how we empower them and look at other needs. Now, if I have to step back and see where we are. First thing first, we need to know that our core business is connectivity. So at Indosat, what we are focusing is how do we get this to a level where we are delivering marvelous experience, not only in urban pockets, in rural also, and we continue to do that with a growth mindset. How we are getting the industry right in terms of the industry growth, so that we don't lose eye on core. The reason why I'm telling, I get very nervous when people start playing on adjacent without getting their core. If I can't do my core and grow core 5-7%, I have no right to talk about anything else. So that will continue to be our focus, whether it is distribution, whether it is running the factory and doing it efficiently. With that 20-month, we felt we are in a good position to get into this telco to techco. And by the way, techco we are not doing. There is a lot to learn from techco, what not to do. We are not in a valuation game. We are not in a valuation game. We want to use. So we have created, I want to invite Sean and you and some of our other partners. In Jakarta, we have created our innovation lab. I was in Silicon Valley, I was in Mountain View. We said, why can't we do this same lab in Jakarta? We have done it, and we have done it with our partner. And the whole theme there is innovate, co-create. And I'm creating this innovation engine, which will help us. We spend so much of money on capex, on network. Why can't we invest some money on innovation with the mindset of solving real challenge? Yeah, and with partner. I don't want to do it alone. So we have taken that journey, and there are areas, where we feel we have the right to play and we can serve, which is very complementary to our digital infrastructure, our 100 million plus customer. We want to make sure on IoT, on security. Security has become a very important thing. How do I make sure my customers are secured? How do I make sure all my corporates, where I give them B2B connectivity, they are secured? So there's a lot of work happening. We have taken again a bold ambition of doing $1 billion of adjacent revenue. Today the adjacent revenue is only 4% of my total revenue. We want to get to anywhere between 15 to 20% by 2026. And we want to do it with partner with the right value for us and for Indonesia.
Thank you, Vikram. Sean, maybe you want to add a little bit about how the adjacent business has or has not played out for telcos, and also the broader role that you see fiber and fixed play.
Yeah, I think fiber. We haven't spoken too much about fiber and fixed today, and I think that that's largely because the flexibility that mobility offers to a very geographically diverse country like Indonesia allows it to be a bit more flexible to deliver some of the goals that both Vikram and his organization have. But it's true to say also that, I've been around in this market a very long time, as I said earlier, and in the old days we used to talk about fiber, or we used to talk about fixed, and we used to talk about mobile. What's happened in the last probably 5 years is that we're starting to see a much more melded version of how those technologies can deliver some of the outcomes that Vikram has talked about. And I think that it's a very good point that Vikram makes again about not talking about technologies too much. I'm a technology analyst, so I can't help myself. But nonetheless, and it excites me quite a lot. But I think the advances that we're seeing in fiber and the ability to deliver a fiber type experience over mobile, but for me as a user, I wouldn't even know it's mobile unless somebody told me, has become something has gone from being something that you can do on mobile to an element of businesses that has become very important in terms of their overall offering in the marketplace. It's allowed many operators in all markets, both developed and developing, to be able to offer giga types of environments in what environments that you wouldn't 5 years ago wouldn't have even thought about delivering a broadband experience to. And I think the technology is particularly around CPEs, the mobile routers that you've got, has meant that the cost of actually deploying it, the cost of spectrum to be able to allow you to do that, and it's very spectrum hungry, by the way, so you have to have big chunks of spectrum to be able to make FWA work, has become much more attractive to operators around the world. And we're seeing that in Western Europe, we're seeing it, and we expect growth of fixed wireless access in our numbers be in excess of 20% CAGR over the next 3 years. So, and that if you'd have asked me that question 2 years ago, it would have been maybe 2 or 3. It was something you did as well on 5G or 4G even, not something you centered the network on. So, and we think that fiber is a slightly different conversation. It takes time. You've got to dig holes. Just if you get into the nitty gritty of fiber, you've got to have somebody out digging a hole, dropping the fiber in, connecting it to the house. It's much cheaper. I've always been taught data out the ground, voice in the air. That's all what I've always been told. But I think what we're starting to see is that become much grayer at the edges as we start to see that develop out. So FWA in particular, we're very excited about, and even more excited about than we were 2 years ago. Fiber, I think, is something that you're seeing deployed in very developed nations who have got the finance, the ability to compete, and I think the infrastructure to be able to do it much more aggressively. And we think that the spectrum availability that we're seeing around the world means that both big chunks and very efficient use of that spectrum is allowing operators to think very differently about how they deliver it. So FWA is one of those, fixed wireless access, the delivery of broadband over mobile, effectively, is becoming a much, much more attractive option across the world at the moment.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean.
Sean, I think you made some very good point. Let me give a bit of a color for Indonesia. I've been asked this question many times. So let's put some facts. Indonesia has 75 million households. Today, only 14 to 15% connected. If I look at countries around me, they are already at 30, 35. So the way we look at it, I think, Sean, you made some very good point. Country like Indonesia is hybrid. It will be a mix of FTTH and FWA, fixed wireless access. And it is about city by city, building by building, where unit economics work. So it is very important that, there is no silver bullet in a country like Indonesia, which has a land square meter like Europe, So both will exist. But the good thing is, at Indosat, we have started that journey. And what we see that customer, you look at it from a customer point, when they go home, automatically they get to their Wi-Fi ping. So how do you give them that seamless experience? How do you ensure that when you are digging hole and putting fiber, if you go wrong, it's a dead investment. So how do you make sure you use machine learning, all these artificial intelligence data to target the building, put it in the right place? I think, we really want to make sure some of these things for Indonesia, we are able to work it out at IOH. But we have an aspiration to get to at least 3 million, home connected between FTTH and FWA. 5G, sometime being late works in your favor. I don't see you can't, in short term, you can be little more or little less, but on mid-term, it has to be meaningful. So
Yes.
I was in Europe, and to all my friends, CEOs there, I said, it's good to be late so that, when we get in, we have all the learning and we are helping our customers. So FWA, I see as one of the important use case. So we are in a good place. We are at a sweet spot now.
Just a quick story on that. I spoke to a very senior director of one of the major operators in Europe in just after MWC last year, and I said, "Why are you so slow with 5G?" He said, "I'm not slow. I'm just careful." I think that's very true at the moment.
Sean, the last question for you, and then we have a few interesting audience questions which I'll address to both of you. With respect to this, again, putting on your technology analyst hat, moving forward, what specific technology trends you think will help advance the digital transformation in India?
Well, I think what we're seeing in releasing the value that Vikram and other CEOs are seeking to do in re-energizing the connectivity market, and particularly the players in the connectivity market, what we've identified is that if you're going to succeed in these markets, with 4G and 5G, by the way, it's not just 5G, and to an extent with FWA, is that this is a team game. 5G in particular is a team game. In order for you to be able to release the value that 5G offers to you in building out and giving you a return on your investment, you have to partner with a bunch of partners who will be able to deliver some of the value alongside you. Now, that could be cloud, it could be security, it could be federal, it could be government, but nonetheless, you have to have a team, a group, who are going to allow you to do that. And what we've said, and we've said regularly in our research, is that 5G is on its own is great, but it's probably not enough to be able to realize maximum value. So being able to deliver those relationships and partnerships is a key trend that perhaps operators around the world haven't had to think about quite as aggressively as they've thought about in the past. That's the first thing. I think that's really important. I know I've said this 3 times now, but scale is so important in this business. The bigger you are, the better you will be. It's just the nature of the beast. You'll be able to look those other big players in the eyes and say, I can deliver to you zeros on whatever it is you're doing. That gets you to the table and they will listen. And you need that commitment from these organizations in order to release that value that we talked about earlier. The other thing which we're seeing a great deal of at the moment is understanding the flexibility and agility that these organizations require to respond to some of these challenges. So the reorganization and the reinvention of mobile operators and fixed and wireless operators is being driven by both AI, by machine learning, by IoT, and all the other things, not just with their customers, but also internally, has meant that we're starting to see new types of operators emerge. Then we have new technologies like Open RAN and O-RAN, and we've got virtualization of the core. We've got the exciting edge of technologies, the edge of networks starting to become much more valuable as we see this collision of compute and connect that Vikram alluded to when he talked about telco to techco. That's a really big one. And I think overriding all of this, I'll finish with this, is being able to do that with a sustainable organization that recognizes and accepts the responsibility of taking on a green and sustainable route to achieving these goals. Telcos are very large organizations which are central to many, many countries around the world in order to be able to succeed. But they need to do it with the responsibility of understanding that they have a profound effect on how our economies will both operate and how green those economies will be. So for us, those are the big trends that we're seeing around the world.
Thank you, Sean. For the audience, we will start the poll now. And there was some interesting question. Maybe I'll address that to you, Vikram. And it's interesting in the sense that what advice or tips will you give for other telecom leaders who are trying to consolidate in the market? I think as we started off in the beginning, your learnings and what you have achieved over the past few months is quite insightful and useful for reuse and replication in other places. So happy to hear how you formulate that, Vikram.
I will just highlight two things. First, please get your negative list right. What not to do.
Right.
Number one. Number two, I think whatever you want to achieve, the route to that is your people. So please, the whole integrating the organization with the vision, making sure that culture, people integration, getting the organization within next first 6 to 9 months is important. If you don't do it, it will never happen. I still see there are companies after 3 years also there are 2 organizations. So these are the two things I will say is very important.
Thank you, Vikram. We just jumped to, and I think it's kind of links to what you explained, Vikram. One of the audience question, or one of the poll questions is what is most essential to ensure a successful merger? And the audience seems to believe that the highest or the most important is customer experience management, followed by strong leadership. But I think our answers as a panel are maybe slightly different with network integration versus integrating people culture. So integrating people culture may be playing a role. But happy to see your reactions. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm sorry, I missed that very last bit that you said. Forgive me, Abhishek.
The audience poll was about what is most essential to ensure successful telco merger, and the audience seems to believe that customer experience management followed by strong leadership are the top.
I think customer experience management is so important. Frankly, if I'm an average customer, just a guy, a man or a woman who needs a phone to work, I want two things. I want to be able to have a network when I'm trying to make a phone call or trying to connect something, and I want them to get my bill right. Those are the two things I want from any operator. In many cases, if I'm an average guy, an average woman, an average guy, the brand, the ownership is relatively irrelevant to me. I just want it to work when I need it to work. And then if I have a problem, and this is absolutely central, that I know where to go, I can get it resolved, and I will carry on being a happy customer. So sometimes that customer journey, as has become talked about a lot, will change as this idea about branding, the marketing teams get hold of it and start to redefine how the company both works and is seen by customers. It takes a long time to do that. It took a long time to get to the point where they are right now, and it takes a long time to change it. Can be as many as we've done some work in Europe where to see a real brand change, where people understand the real brand change, can take in excess of 7 years from start to finish. And I think that if you're going to get the customer service journey right, then you will cover over a lot of some of the bumps in the road that you'll get elsewhere in the business. But none of this works without a group of committed individuals from the front line people who are serving those customers in stores, in villages and small towns, out in the most remote areas, all the way through to the men and women in the boardroom. And I think that if everybody's delivering the same idea about the same goal to deliver the same impact and with the same effectiveness, all of the things we talk about here just doesn't happen. It's always about the people. It's always about the people.
Thank you. Just to kind of speed things up, I think as a panel, we'll agree that integrating workplace culture and integrating people may be the top, which is in contrast to what the audience seems to believe. Moving to the second poll question, what is the most important for a telco for digital transformation? Here the options are 5G, network virtualization, artificial intelligence, and cloud. Maybe I'll reach out to you, Vikram. How do you rank these things, or how do you see these from a digital transformation perspective?
I would have loved if you would have put an option of solving real problem. All these all these things are enabler.
Tools. Yeah.
So tools, once you identify and unlock, see, all the success have been built around, solving or unlocking a real problem, and if you can do it at scale. So for me, these are all tools. You
Right.
have to choose the right tool, get the design principle right, and do it
Right.
with the right. Don't, again, what not to do. If you are trying to do it with a valuation game, then you are chasing different metrics. But if you really
Right.
want to create an impact, make a SME earn $10. Once they earn $10, they will give you $2. So
Right.
I'm just giving a perspective that these are all tools and enabler. But for me, what problem you are trying to solve? Do you have the right design principles, unit economics, which can help it scale up? Scale is important. I'm like me and Sean. I love Sean and I get his insight. But without scale, then it is meaningless.
Very clear. John, maybe you'd put a more technology analyst hat on this and choose among
I'll,
the
I'll,
given options.
I'll try.
Yes.
I think we've never done it. We haven't yet done an assessment about which of the. By the way, I think you've pretty much captured the 5 or 6 of those there that I think are important from a technology point of view. I would say, at the risk of being obvious, none of these things can have a platform at the scale that they want to. That is cloud, IT, AI, whatever it might be, compute,
Right.
without having 5G out there or 4G out there. So 4G or 5G. And what we said, and I think I said it a couple of minutes ago, 4G or 5G isn't enough on its own. It is for some things, but not for the new technologies that are coming. But without it, none of it happens. So it's a foundational technology. And one of the reasons why you see these giants circling our industry of mobility and connectivity, the Microsofts and the Googles and the Amazons and the Apples, the reason that they circle it so tightly is because they're very envious and they're desperate to get their hands on these enormous
Yeah.
workloads that are being generated already without the new elements. And they see a market almost forming in front of us in the sense of new networks, a new agility at the edge of the network, a new set of compute as we virtualize the network. There is no other industry in the world that we're aware of at value level that offers the kind of growth that mobility and connectivity can offer. Even the internet, in delivery of the internet. I'm not talking about the applications on the internet. I'm talking about delivery of the internet. And so I think that's why you see so much money in so many of these organizations driving so hard into mobility and connectivity.
Thanks, Sean. The next question for the poll, and maybe an interesting one for both of you, is what should telcos focus on to improve its brand image? And the audience has selected customer experience, of course, but I think there are a few other options. It will be good to see how you react to them. Competitive pricing, innovation, and comprehensiveness of the services, or sustainability. Beyond improved customer experience, how do you see these stack up, or where do these fit? I'll repeat them, competitive pricing, innovation, and sustainability. Vikram, to you first.
So, Abhishek, I have been in the industry for 2 decades. I always put my hand up and say that we failed on building trust with our customers. So the number one thing is to keep it simple. I think Sean was telling, what do customer want? They want it works everywhere, and in today's data led things, they are able to use the application, what we promise we deliver. And if they get stuck, they get to reach to someone in a very simple and easy manner. So the most difficult thing for us to keep it simple, so I think we are in a journey of ensuring that the customer become fan. If they become a fan, look at all these football fans. Their team win or lose, they cheer for them. So, but
Right.
for that to win their trust. So, for us, the whole experience piece, building trust and converting them into fan is where we are focusing. We believe first, for you to correct, first you need to acknowledge you did not do it right. The problem with people like me was that we were on a denial mode. We messed up on vast services, all these upsell, cross-sell, toxic revenue, roaming also. You feel cheated, and then we have so many plans. Day plan, night plan. You go to that location, this plan. Simple things.
Right.
Incredible billing had taken us 20 years. So I think we had complicated it, and we need to unlock it in a manner where we are really creating our customer into fan. So that calls for
Fantastic.
simplicity. That calls for real simple, transparent experience.
Right. Thank you for that, Vikram. I think when we work together, I think the focus on improving our customer satisfaction scores and how that was consistently achieved, I think that was a great takeaway when we were working. Sean, how do you see this topic?
I think it's.
On the brands.
I think this is a question we get asked more than any other. I think, how do I do two things? How do I keep the customers I've got, and how do I get the customers from my competitors? It's the same question, really. What you're trying to do. And if I'm being really honest, there's no single answer to this. I think if you ask most people, if you leave your room now and go and ask 3 people on the street, why are you with your mobile operator, and why would you move? What would make you move? You'll get 3 different answers. You'll get 300 different answers. You'll get 3,000 different answers. Very difficult when you're a senior leader in these organizations to say, we'll do more of this, and that will end up with us doing better. That said, there is definitely a correlation between customer satisfaction and retention. That's like saying rain is wet, right? But nonetheless, it's not as obvious. It's in these days where it's very easy to move about if you need to, and you would like to. You have to constantly deliver a level of customer service that will make sure that if there is an issue, that I can resolve it reasonably quickly. And that could be almost any issue. And by the way, that's complicated, it's expensive, and it's very difficult to do at scale. Vikram will talk about this, I'm sure, quietly over a beer, because he has a quest to do it. But I think the second thing we see is that we ask people, everybody always wants a cheaper price. Always. I've never asked anybody, would you like to spend less or more? And somebody said, I want to spend more. Never, ever. But we say to them, if they can give you the journey and the technology and the devices that you want, are you happy to stay where you are? Sometimes it's as simple as that. So I think customer service is a very, very important part of retention. Acquisition, I think, is a different conversation. You have to offer things to bring people over to you, and that's about marketing and proposition. And the marketing and proposition teams, I think, in many operators don't get the credit they deserve for the innovation that they bring to market. But we're seeing a lot of that around. That's not for now. We've only got a few minutes left, but that's perhaps another conversation for another day.
Thank you, Sean.
I will just, Sean, add one thing. My biggest learning is by dropping price, you don't do good to yourself and to the customer also.
No,
that has
no.
been a bigger learning, because today in Jakarta, a Starbucks coffee I buy for 65,000. Let's not talk about Starbucks. If I go to village also. So the point which I'm trying to say is data is primary. It is helping people do productive work at a fraction of a cost. So I think telco, we need to reduce pricing, guys. We don't need too many, this so-called UNR. They complicate life. When you hire too many people, they will do something or the other. So how you keep it simple, and I don't see any case study where by dropping price you have got anything sustainable. People are ready to pay, and because it is helping them do a lot of productive things at a fraction of a cost, you need to deliver them very good experience, whether they are in their bathroom, where they are, wherever it is. It should, not you experience yourself. If you are not connected, you will feel something is missing. So how do you do that? And give them simple product, they'll be very happy. But the point which I'm highlighting is pricing is my biggest learning, and telco guys, we were so scared, we have been self-inflictive, cutting each other, putting price down. It did not help anyone. It didn't help the country.
Absolutely. All right. I think that concludes our discussion. We have a minute left, so I want to thank you both, and Sean, for sharing your views. This was a very good and engaging discussion, and I hope the audience found it useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek.